The story begins by introducing Ji-soo, a young woman who works at an advertising agency. In her work environment, Ji-soo is very well liked by her colleagues. They see her as a diligent and caring person who always tries to help others. This attitude is what makes Ji-soo popular in the organization. However, behind all this, her colleagues are unaware that Ji-soo is actually a skilled manipulator who has successfully created a positive image of herself. One day, when Ji-soo is getting her usual coffee, a young barista named Ji-ho asks her out on a date. The naive Ji-ho doesn't realize that Ji-soo has actually been watching him since the first time they met. Ji-soo is a passionate woman who is not afraid to pursue anyone who catches her attention. However, instead of showing her interest directly, she subtly draws Ji-ho's attention until he starts to like her. When her plan works, Ji-soo pretends to be surprised and agrees to go out with him, even though she already has a boyfriend. Ji-soo is not only manipulating Ji-ho, but also her boss, Tae-oh. Unlike the cheerful Ji-ho, Tae-oh is a man who is very focused on his work. As a result, to attract her boss's attention, Ji-soo pretends to be a hardworking employee who is always one step ahead of her colleagues. With her sweet demeanor and the impression that she can be relied upon, Ji-soo manages to make Tae-oh interested and asks her out. When her boss expresses his feelings, Ji-soo happily agrees to date Tae-oh without caring about the other men around her. However, before starting her relationship with Tae-oh, Ji-soo is polite enough to break up with her current boyfriend. At that moment, she honestly tells her boyfriend that she likes another man, which breaks his heart. Nevertheless, Ji-soo seems indifferent to her ex-boyfriend's feelings. The next day, Ji-soo and Tae-oh go to a bar to drink and talk about their lives and interests until the bar closes. They enjoy their time together, and by the end of the night, they realize that they are very compatible with each other. This makes Tae-oh look very happy at work, even smiling in the meeting room as he remembers Ji-soo's antics. As a result, everyone in the room is shocked because Tae-oh is usually known to be a cold person who doesn't care about anything but work. No one has ever seen him smile before, so the employees start gossiping behind his back. However, Ji-soo doesn't care about the gossip because she is too busy flirting with Ji-ho through text messages. That day, Ji-ho is supposed to attend his university farewell party, but tempted by Ji-soo's messages, he decides to leave the party and come to her workplace. Ji-soo is surprised to see him standing in front of the office building, but quickly decides not to miss this opportunity and flirts with Ji-ho even more. The scene then shifts to Ji-soo's high school days, showing that she has always been surrounded by many boys. Ji-soo is the school's idol, with boys competing every day for her attention. This makes Ji-soo happy to receive that attention and delighted to see the boys fighting over her. Unexpectedly, her popularity never caused her any problems, and she was also good at maintaining friendships with those around her. One day, Ji-soo meets her best friend, Hyun-woo, whom she first met while still in school. Now, Hyun-woo works as a police officer, but their friendship has remained strong over the years. On their days off, Ji-soo and Hyun-woo often visit comic cafes to relax together. Hyun-woo knows all about Ji-soo's habit of dating and leaving men behind. Nevertheless, he has secretly harbored feelings for her for more than 10 years. Hyun-woo does not actually approve of Ji-soo's lifestyle, but he is still willing to listen to her stories about her messy romantic adventures. In their conversation, Ji-soo did not hide anything from Hyun-woo, as he was the only one who knew her true self. Ji-soo even showed him a photo of Tae-oh and Ji-ho, asking him to choose between the two because she was confused herself. However, when Hyun-woo refused to help, Ji-soo also declined to reveal her decision. In the end, Ji-soo decided to date both of them at the same time. The next day, after confirming their relationship, Tae-oh and Ji-soo were both very happy, even though they couldn't express that relationship at work. When Ji-soo and her team almost made a mistake in a meeting, Tae-oh acted as the boss and reprimanded her. However, after everyone left the room, they turned into a couple. One time, while Tae-oh and Ji-soo were being affectionate, an employee suddenly entered without knocking. As a result, they both quickly rushed apart and pretended that Tae-oh was reprimanding his subordinate. Fortunately, their acting was convincing enough that the employee believed them. That night, Tae-oh was seen escorting Ji-soo home after work, but Ji-ho kept calling her, which Jisoo couldn't answer because she was still with Tae-oh. So she made an excuse that it was just a spam call. Not long after, the atmosphere in the car became tense as they began to kiss. Seeing the situation getting hotter, Tae-oh wanted to go into her apartment, but Jisoo quickly made an excuse and asked him to go home, promising to invite him next time. It turned out that Jisoo couldn't invite Tae-oh to her apartment because Ji-ho was already inside, waiting for her. Additionally, Ji-ho had cooked delicious food for Jisoo and said he had a surprise. Because of this, her curiosity was piqued, but Ji-ho claimed it was a secret. After Ji-ho left, Jisoo was seen resting in her bed and calling one of her friends. At that time, her friend immediately warned her about the risks of dating two people at once. But Jisoo was confident that she wouldn't get caught because her two boyfriends were different ages and worked in different fields, making it unlikely that they would know each other. Even if she got caught, Jisoo felt she could easily break up with both of them. The next morning, Jisoo's confidence crumbled instantly upon seeing Tae-oh welcoming a new employee who turned out to be Ji-ho. Before Ji-ho could show that they knew each other, Jisoo quickly came to her senses and dragged him to a quiet place under the pretext of wanting to talk as his senior. At that time, she informed Ji-ho that they needed to keep their relationship a secret for his own good, as Jisoo didn't want others to think that Ji-ho got his job through connections. Although Ji-ho was a bit hesitant, he ultimately agreed to Jisoo's request. Upon discovering that Ji-ho had not signed an employment contract, Jisoo began to persuade him not to work there. She expressed her concerns about Ji-ho, who had just graduated and would have to work in a highly competitive environment. However, Jisoo's attempts backfired, making Ji-ho even more determined to work there to help Jisoo with her job and lighten her burden. After failing to persuade Ji-ho, Jisoo turned to Tae-oh, discussing Ji-ho's lack of experience and suggesting that they should recruit someone more mature. Unfortunately, Tae-oh was very impressed with his talent and was eager to recruit him. Not knowing what to do, Jisoo complained to Hyun-woo about the crisis she was facing, but Hyun-woo felt that this was just a consequence of Jisoo playing around too much. Therefore, he suggested that Jisoo break up with both of them, which she immediately rejected. It turned out that she only needed to endure for 2 more months until the project was completed, and after that, her two boyfriends would have no reason to interact frequently. However, that hope seemed empty, as Jisoo quickly realized that Tae-oh and Ji-ho seemed to be getting closer, which made her increasingly worried. If they became closer as friends, there was a possibility they would discuss their romantic relationships, which would make Jisoo truly exposed. Despite this, the only way to save both of her relationships is to destroy their friendship. The opportunity arose in a meeting when Tae-oh reprimanded Ji-ho for speaking out of turn. Earlier, Jisoo had met with Tae-oh to complain about Ji-ho's childish behavior. Additionally, on the way home, Jisoo also complained to Ji-ho about Tae-oh's cold demeanor. Unexpectedly, her plan worked, as the next day, both men began to avoid each other. However, because she was too busy worrying about her relationships and trying not to get caught, Jisoo ultimately neglected her health. Even though she only had a mild cold, Tae-oh was still concerned about her condition, so he gave Jisoo leave and told her to go home to rest. Jisoo happily accepted the leave and immediately called Hyun-woo to complain about her health. However, Hyun-woo was too busy with his own work to come help her. Nevertheless, for Jisoo, this was not a big deal because there were several men ready to take care of her, such as Ji-ho, who even took leave from the office to look after her. At that time, Ji-ho cooked porridge and brought her medicine, making Jisoo feel touched by his attention. This made her start to act sweeter towards him. However, their time together was interrupted by the doorbell, prompting Ji-ho to walk over and open the door, thinking it was just a delivery. At the same time, when Jisoo looked at a message on her phone from Tae-oh, it said he was on his way to visit her. Jisoo immediately ran to catch Ji-ho, who had already opened the door. Fortunately, the person outside was not Tae-oh, but rather a bag of food sent by Hyun-woo. As a result, Jisoo's body immediately felt weak with relief, but she realized it wasn't time to let her guard down, as Tae-oh was still on his way. Quickly, she made up an excuse to get Ji-ho out of her house, saying that her mother was coming to visit. After that, Jisoo hurried back to her apartment and managed to open the door just in time to invite Tae-oh inside. After a few days, Her actions began to have a negative impact on Jisoo, causing Hyun to notice her exhaustion. Previously, Jisoo had never lied to her boyfriend and had always been honest with herself. Seeing this change, Hyun, worried, immediately expressed his concerns to Jisoo. His heartfelt words touched Jisoo, but she had to go to the office, where more problems awaited her, as Jisoo had been working carelessly in the past few days, leading to a major emergency for her team. In addition to work issues, Tae-oh began to suspect that Ji-ho had feelings for Jisoo. Because of this, he immediately suggested that Jisoo keep a clear distance between them. At the same time, Ji-ho slowly started to sense the uncertainty in Jisoo's relationship with Tae-oh. This made both of them begin to feel jealousy and act hostile towards each other. After finishing a long day at the office, the three of them decided to go out for drinks, trying to forget their differences. However, when the conversation turned to the topic of their respective partners, Jisoo began to feel uncomfortable and couldn't hold back the guilt that continued to haunt her, until finally, Jisoo revealed that she had been seeing both of them. Of course, the two men did not take this well, especially Ji-ho, who considered this his first real relationship experience. Jisoo realized that the right thing to do was to let them vent their anger and curse her, but she could no longer hold back her stomachache. After giving a sincere apology, she immediately went home to lie down in bed. The next day, the atmosphere in the office was very awkward as Tae-oh and Ji-ho tried as much as possible to ignore Jisoo. This was the first time she felt heartbroken after her relationships ended. It turned out that she truly liked both of them, but now she was ready to accept whatever decision they made. As the two men went to a bar to discuss their feelings, Jisoo joined Hyun at a local restaurant to vent her frustration. Seeing Jisoo so downcast, Hyun felt sorry for her and gave her some comics as a gift. Although Jisoo was happy to receive them, the comics were not enough to distract her. Not long after, Jisoo received a phone call from Ji-ho, asking her to meet outside. Assuming he would break up with her, Jisoo walked sadly out of the restaurant to meet him. However, she was surprised to see that Tae-oh was also there. It turned out they had not come to break up with her, but rather to ask her to continue dating both of them. However, there was one condition. She had to choose one of them by the end of their 2-month project, which made Jisoo very happy to hear, and she immediately agreed. At the same time, Hyun was waiting for Jisoo to return to the restaurant, but she never picked up his call. The next day, Jisoo experienced the most relaxed day she had had in a while, as both men worked hard to win her over and did not miss a chance to flirt. While enjoying the attention from her two boyfriends, Jisoo suddenly remembered Hyun, who because she had left him behind just yesterday. Without hesitation, she quickly sent a text message in the middle of a meeting, asking him to come to the office to pick her up after work. It turned out Jisoo wanted to discuss many things with him, which Hyun agreed to, even though he had been increasingly frustrated with her lately. Unexpectedly, Jisoo always acted like that because she often made plans with Hyun then canceled them to go out with her other boyfriends. However, because she loved Jisoo, Hyun felt he couldn't refuse her selfish requests. When night fell, Hyun went to pick up Jisoo, but right in front of her office, he saw Jisoo laughing with Tae-oh and Ji-ho. At that moment, Hyun felt overwhelmed and realized that if he wanted to protect his heart from being hurt, he had to distance himself from Jisoo. Therefore, that night, Hyun decided to end their friendship, which made Jisoo very sad, and her sadness grew even deeper as they spoke on the phone. Worried about Jisoo, Tae-oh and Ji-ho quickly came to her apartment to comfort her. As a result, the three of them watched horror movies and played games all night, which made Jisoo really enjoy the moment, wishing they could all be together forever like this. However, when her two boyfriends fell asleep, her thoughts returned to Hyun who hadn't contacted her for a week. In the following days, Jisoo tried to enjoy her time with her boyfriends. Unexpectedly, she couldn't help but compare them to Hyun. In the process, she eventually realized that no one could take his place in her life. One night, Jisoo dreamed she was walking with Tae-oh and Ji-ho by her side. It felt enjoyable until she saw Hyun meeting a woman and walking away with her. As a result, Jisoo immediately woke up from her nightmare and suddenly became aware. Therefore, still wearing her pajamas, she ran to Hyun's apartment and began knocking loudly on the door. When he opened the door, Hyen, who was surprised to see Ji-soo at his door, and even more shocked when she suddenly kissed his lips. Hyen, who was speechless, and as he came to his senses from his confusion, Ji-soo had already walked back to her apartment. As a result, Hyen, who refused to let Ji-soo leave without giving him an explanation, so he immediately chased after her. When Hyen, who asked about the kiss, Ji-soo admitted that she liked him, momentarily making him feel very happy. Hyen, who then confessed that he also liked Ji-soo and asked her to be his girlfriend, but he didn't want their relationship to be like her relationships with Tae-oh and Ji-ho. Therefore, Hyen, who asked Ji-soo to break up with him first. Unfortunately, after all that, Ji-soo still hesitated and didn't want to end her current relationships because she also liked them. Although Hyen, who understood Ji-soo better than anyone else, he couldn't suppress his disappointment. In his confusion, Hyen, who wondered how he could hope to be just a regular boyfriend with Ji-soo. Eventually, Hyen, who decided to break up with her, perhaps forever. As a result, Ji-soo felt so depressed that she didn't go to work the next day and refused to contact anyone. Tae-oh and Ji-ho tried to reach her all day, but she didn't reply to their messages or answer their calls. Worried, they both immediately went to her apartment after work, but Ji-soo was not there. When Tae-oh tried to call her again, unexpectedly, the call went through, and Ji-soo answered the phone. Although she didn't speak, Tae-oh could hear the sound of glass breaking before Ji-soo hung up the call. As a result, anxiety immediately enveloped Tae-oh because he felt that something bad had happened to Ji-soo. Feeling the need to act quickly, Ji-ho suggested they check the restaurant that Ji-soo often visited, and the two of them hurried there. At that moment, Ji-soo was at her favorite restaurant, sipping drinks while thinking about how her relationship with Hyen, who had suddenly gone bad. In an attempt to drown her sorrow in alcohol, she unexpectedly ran into her ex-boyfriend, whom she had left a month ago before starting to date Tae-oh and Ji-ho. It seemed her ex-boyfriend still hadn't forgiven her for what happened and felt satisfied seeing Ji-soo in sorrow. Although Ji-soo tried to apologize again, her ex shouted that he didn't want to hear her apology. As a result of this incident, Ji-soo realized that she was now struggling to trust others and might never fully trust anyone in the future. When her ex-boyfriend vented his frustration, Tae-oh and Ji-ho finally found Ji-soo and ran to protect her from the man. At first, both of them acted aggressively towards Ji-soo's actions, but as the man continued with the insults, the situation escalated into a fight. Although Ji-soo tried to stop them, she felt powerless watching the conflict unfold. Fortunately, Hyen, who happened to be heading to the same restaurant, so he quickly broke up the fight with the help of other police officers. Unbeknownst to them, someone secretly recorded their fight, causing the video to go viral on the internet overnight. The next day, Tae-oh and Ji-soo were promptly summoned to the director's office, where they received a stern reprimand. As a consequence, Tae-oh lost his position as project leader, while Ji-soo was appointed as the new interim leader. Additionally, the director ordered Ji-soo to immediately fire Ji-ho. A wave of guilt washed over Ji-soo upon hearing that order. Although Tae-oh comforted her by saying it wasn't her fault, she knew that all of this was a result of her unfaithfulness. Feeling unable to bear the thought of the two men she loved suffering because of her hasty decision, Ji-soo decided to break up with both of them, thinking that letting them go was the best choice. As a result, both men were heartbroken, and Ji-soo felt the same way. Nevertheless, they all decided to move on with their lives. After ending her relationships, Ji-soo immediately went to speak with the director, where she tried to convince him and request that Tae-oh be reinstated as team leader, as well as save Ji-ho from being fired. Fortunately, her efforts paid off, and the three of them worked together to complete the project. During that time, Ji-soo worked very hard, and in a short period, the project was successfully finished. As the team celebrated their success, Ji-soo felt that this was a good ending, both for the project and her relationships. On that day, confidently, she submitted her resignation letter and left to seek a new beginning. The scene shifts to several months later, where Ji-soo has found a new job, and her life is thriving. Among all the good things happening, she feels the happiest in her relationship with Hyen, who because he loves her for who she is, and Ji-soo really likes how he can easily understand her. They spend time together, being sweet in front of their friends, and often play around in Jisoo's apartment. The story ends in a park, where Hyun who releases Jisoo's hand with a smile, allowing her to go with another man. He accepts everything about Jisoo, including her fluctuating feelings. Hyun who realizes that Jisoo cannot live without him, and he feels the same way. With this understanding, he is content with the open relationship they have. Moral lesson from the story: if you try to juggle too many relationships at once, you might just end up with a broken heart and a shattered glass. Remember, honesty is like a good coffee. It keeps you awake and prevents stomachache.